Luciana Garcia, has taught me how she makes enchiladas. And, she says, well, I just do a little bit of it. Okay, cultura, okay? But it's encounter that needs our reflection.
Grandma has a way of making a red sauce for pasta.
Oh, what? No. See, I'm being quoted already. I'll only deny it. Okay, the word for encounter in Spanish is encuentro. And encuentro is based on the verb encontrar. And encontrar means encounter, yeah, but more so it means to find. Okay? And so this is something this is a good point, I think. Huh? Yeah, don't you think? Encontrar, okay? It means to find. It means to encounter, but if you want to say, I was looking for something, I found it, you use the verb encontrar in Spanish. So Francis is saying that we need to have as our kind of default, our working presupposition, the idea that we're in search of something and in the process of finding it. Do you see how big this idea is? Yeah. Okay. Remember, there was, back in the days when there was ecclesia dicens and docens and ecclesia dicens. The church that teaches, that would be the bishops, and the church that listens, that would be all of you. Okay? Okay? Cultura de encuentro. Yeah, I like this. That we are, well, once again, we're about questions more than we are about answers. Okay? And there are a lot of people in the church that don't feel comfortable with what Francis is saying here. Second major term, idea is fraternity. And again, I'm spending way too much time on both of these here, okay? Fraternity, fraternitas. I was in Rome when Laudato Si, the encyclical on the environment, which is an incredible document. Okay. Prior to that, he came out with an encyclical on fraternity, which is a vision. Man, the world is screwed up. Are we all in agreement with that? Okay. American politics, whoa, okay. And Francis is promoting a vision where, remember I asked you to find someone that you didn't know and introduce yourself, okay? We got to build community. We've got to build connections, fraternity, big idea. The third idea is synodality. So I'll go down there to point 2, synodality. Synodality, synod, synhodos, I say this again and again and again, but repetition, I'm 30 years in the classroom, right? Okay. Repetitions, don't worry about it, just keep repeating, it'll gradually. Synodality, synod comes from synhodos, it means to be on the road together. It means a meeting. In Greek, it means a meeting. So and specifically, bishops gather when there's a problem to discern what's going on and how can we be of better service to the church, okay? To be, literally, to be on the road together. And I come back to this, where we need to be more about questions than answers. God knows we've had answers in the past. What are the questions that we need to be asking to be a better service to the world, okay? And so, if synhodos, synod, comes from on the road together, look at this. On the road, culture of encounter. Together, fraternity. Do you see how all three of these key concepts link together? If I dare say so myself, I think this is a very good insight into how Francis is working. To be on the road together, synod, means that we incorporate a culture of encounter with fraternity. Okay, so last comment here. What's going on here with synodality? It's a return to the Second Vatican Council. A friend of mine, a theologian, has said, we are not ready for for Vatican III, the Third Vatican Council. We're not ready yet. Here in the United States of America, we are really not ready. we need to come together and reflect on our synodality. And then, years from now, maybe, here in the United States at least, we'll be ready, okay? The Second Vatican Council talked a lot about the term collegiality. And technically, collegiality means that the bishops of the world share the responsibility for leading the church with the Pope, as opposed to this Pope as a monarch and the bishops as lords, and then everybody beneath that, okay? So that's sort of the idea of Pope as monarch that really reigned at the First Vatican Council, that with Pius IX, okay? And the Second Vatican Council seek to balance that out a little bit, saying that the Pope, the ministry of Peter needs to be exercised collegially with the College of Bishops, okay? Francis is taking this a step further. The collegiality includes all the baptized. Well, and when Francis says all the baptized, he means our Lutheran brothers and sisters as well. That's right. Okay. So I would have to say, hey, Lutherans. Yeah, let's hear it for the Lutherans. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'm shameless. I know. I'm just shameless. Okay. So everybody. I think after you guys, you don't mind if I say incendiary things here, okay? We're just among us. The bishops at the Second Vatican Council went home, and then the Curia said, "We'll take it from here." Okay. And look at Pope Paul VI did really important things. He was a great pope. John Paul II did really important things. He was a great pope, too, kind of. Then there was Benedict, okay? Francis is the first pope that didn't go to the council as a pope. And he's the first pope now to take the bull by the horns and say, okay, let's look at what the council really meant. Okay. Now, that statement needs a ton of footnotes, and it needs, okay, so it's more complicated than I'm making out here. But it took us 100 years to get Trent going, the Council of Trent. It's going to take us 100 years to get the Second Vatican Council going as well, okay? And what's happening right now in Rome is we're going to look back and say this was a crucial step in the implementation of the council. After Trent, St. Francis de Sales, and in Italy, but also Charles Borromeo in Milan, famously, they're both saints, famously put the council into practice in their home diocese. This is historians write doctoral dissertations on this now. Okay, and to this day, the Archdiocese of Milan, okay, bears the imprint of Charles Borromeo. Okay, I'm hoping that we look back 100 years from now and say, oh yeah, the Synod on Synodality, 2021 to 2024, was this important moment in the Church's, I'm going to use technical terminology, in the Church's reception of the Second Vatican Council. How are we receiving it? How are we taking that council in and putting it into practice? I'm talking way too much. So, synods in the life of the Church. Beth. Okay, so Cardinal Raymond Burke, or excuse me, oh, I misspelled his name. There's a D on the end there. Shame on. I'm not a good speller, okay. As he would prefer, Raymond Cardinal Burke, okay. He said about the word synod, this is a term which has no history in the doctrine of the Church and for which there is no reasonable definition. Really? Well, with all due respect, there's the Council of Jerusalem. This is, look, open your Bible, go to the book of Acts, go to the 15th chapter, okay? And there's a big hubbub look at this, the Jesus movement, which is located within the synagogues at this point. The Jesus movement, the Jesus movement, which is a movement within Judaism, right? It's not Christianity yet, is attracting Gentiles. Well, if you're going to become part of our synagogue, do you have to be, if you're a guy, do you have to be circumcised? Okay. So, do you have to observe the law? Do you have to start observing Sabbath regulations and dietary regulations? Or is this Jesus as Messiah movement, is it something beyond the synagogue? Well, this is a huge question. It seems obvious to us today. Think of it back in the first century, okay? So how do they deal with it? Paul's causing problems out in the Greek world, and so he takes up a collection. There's always a little money behind this, by the way. Okay? Paul takes up a collection there in these Greek cities, Corinth and Thessalonica, and in Ephesus, and it's, you know, all these letters, right? Okay, and brings it back to Jerusalem. It's kind of a salve, I suppose you could say. Others might call it a bribe, but okay. And then Paul confronts Peter. And Paul says, I spoke to Peter with parrhesia. He put his cards down on the table. He spoke forthrightly. He was outspoken. Okay? And by the way, Peter isn't the Pope yet. Ever. He's a leader, okay? And Paul's a leader. And we got a problem. Let's deal. That's a synod. So with all due respects to Cardinal Burke, there is a history that goes back. It's in the Bible, Your Eminence. Okay? Cyprian of Carthage. There's his dates. You can see it there, okay? Look at, there was a terrible persecution of the church done under Emperor Diocletian, okay? Horrible things. And certain bishops in the Mediterranean area, including North Africa, were required to submit to the emperor and recognize the emperor's divinity. Imagine that you're a leader in the local Christian community, and the Roman authorities come and say, at Mass, and say, time for you publicly to knuckle under. And the Roman Empire ritualized this by saying, you need to take your scriptures. The Bible, it wasn't even, not the same number of books, but take your holy books and hand them over to us. So the verb for this in Latin is tradere, to hand over. And from this, the one who hands over is a traditor, from which we get the word traitor. Okay. So how then Diocletian is dead. Eventually Constantine becomes the emperor. Constantine tolerates Christianity, the whole deal there. The whole political situation changes. North Africa is peculiar in its quest for purity. So two churches resulted. There was a church that accepted the traditores, the bishops that handed the scriptures over, accepted them back. And another church that said, once you did that, you're not baptized any longer. So there was a time when, once you're baptized, you can't get them baptized, okay? And so, if you're baptized a Catholic and you join the Lutheran Church, you don't need to be rebaptized, okay? Mormons is a complicated question, but that, we'll leave that for the theologians, okay? Okay, everybody? And the bishops met at Carthage, bishops from North met at Carthage and said, once you're baptized, this is an act of God, and you're still baptized, even if you are a traditor. And so, the followers of the traditores, who are long, the bishops that capitulated are long dead. It's the priests and the bishops ordained by them and ordained by them. This goes on for generations. Okay, look at, we had a pastoral problem, and it needed theological reflection and pastoral discernment, and that's what Cyprian did in Carthage, a synod. Your Eminence, Cardinal Burke, there is a historical background here. Okay. Fast forward here to the United States of America, okay? The Synods of Baltimore, an immigrant church. Can you imagine? Look at, our church is overwhelmed with immigrants right now. Thanks be to God.
Amen.
Amen, thank you. Okay. An immigrant church with enormous pastoral needs. The Irish, for example. Mixed marriages. How are we going to respond to this? Back in Ireland, a Catholic marrying a Protestant ain't too likely, at least back in the 19th century, certainly, okay? Mixed marriages. The canonical status of slave marriages. So, slaves get married in the Baptist church, and this marriage is not legally binding in the state of Alabama. You understand that? Okay? Slave can't get married in the state of Alabama or Georgia or go through the list. Okay? What happens when slaves get married in the Catholic Church? Canonically, there is a sacramental bond that is not recognized by the state. What is the status of that marriage? Well, how are we going to deal with this? The bishops get together in Baltimore and thrash it out. How are we going to respond? What's the canonical status? What's the sacramental status? And how are we going to deal with this pastorally? Okay? Lay trusteeship. Well, everybody, lay trusteeship. There was a time when there was a tremendous shortage of priests. Lay people got together, bought some land, built a church, and hired a priest for their parish. And then things get a little more civilized, and there's a bishop, and really, you're not accepting slaves in your parish. Well, it's my parish, not your parish. And we have rules. No, Bishop, we have title to the parish, lay trusteeship. How are we going to deal with this? Complicated, okay? Temperance societies. I'll just leave that alone, okay? Also this, Rome really doesn't get American democracy. We got so much to talk about here, okay? And then finally, Your Eminence, Cardinal Burke, there is the Second Vatican Council, you might recall, okay? 1962 to 1965, all the bishops of the world got together, and Pope John the 23rd said, in effect, we're not dealing with answers, we need to deal with questions. Pope John was amazing. He kept saying, no, I don't have a secret agenda. I want you to set the agenda. He said that, in effect, over and over again. It's a remarkable story. It's a remarkable story. You guys, I trust you that all of you are people of good faith, and I want you to represent your local churches and come up with a vision of the church that will be of service for generations to come. A synod. Also, let me just say, in the last session of the council, bishops said, this needs to go on already. I think some of the bishops realized that all the bishops would go home and the curia would say, thank you very much, we'll take over from here, okay? So they said, we need to have, in a sense, a continuation of the council. So every 3 years or so, we want selected bishops, maybe 200 bishops or so, to come from various parts of the world to reflect on an issue and share this with the Pope, okay? And that's how, today it's called the Synod of Bishops, okay? And that's what's going on today, except Francis has put his own twist on it, okay? So, issue number 2, Francis's vision of the Synod. Here's a text, okay? And instead of reading it out, and putting a lot of text on a slide is not good pedagogy, but watch it. Look at this. What a dynamic teacher I am here, okay? Okay. Hey, the purpose of the Synod is not to produce more documents. My God, are we good? Phyllis, Lutherans, you're pretty good at producing documents too, aren't you? Okay? Yeah, God knows. Yeah. We're good at producing documents, okay? And this Synod, my God, has it produced documents. Each diocese has produced a document. Each Episcopal conference has produced documents. At the continental level, they produce documents. Then all these documents go to Rome. Rome looks at it, and they brought in. It's really cool. They brought in all kinds of lay people on retreat in the town of Frascati outside of Rome. They took it all and they worked it up into a provocative document, and they sent it back to us. Okay, documents. But don't lose track. The purpose of the Synod is not to produce more documents. Rather, it is to look at this. This is classic Pope Francis. To inspire people to dream. Dream about the church that we are called to be. I think I put that there. Look at that, everyone. Not what the church has always taught. Not what the eternal and irreformable, that's a great Catholic word, irreformable, the irreformable structures of the church as Jesus intended, okay? Dream about what the church that we are called to be, synodos, to be on the road together, a culture of encounter that arises out of our fraternity. Do you see how I'm weaving these ideas together? Okay, you see how all that? The Synod is intended to inspire people to dream about the church we are called to be. Okay, and then to make people's hopes flourish. You guys, think of all the Spanish-speaking people in our community here at St. Leo's, okay? Think what they left behind. And I think of this kid, this charming little boy, Leonardo, okay? And listen, his parents they're dirt poor, okay? They came here, and Leonardo now is way taller than I am, okay? And he's applying right now to the University of California, San Diego. Do you know how I am not only an old college prof, I'm the priest who served with him at Mass. And Leo is applying to the University of California, San Diego. Okay? His parents didn't make it past 4th grade. St. Leo's is a place where people's hopes flourish. Yes, this is what the church is supposed to be. Okay? All right. And his parents are just as good as gold. And Leonardo, I want you to, you're fledging, you got your wings now, go fly. Just go fly, and then come back and tell us all about it. Okay? To stimulate trust, I've been doing a lot of talking about AI. By the way, I'm going to be on a panel down in Los Angeles with a group of Buddhists talking about artificial intelligence, okay? I'm worried, okay? Anyway, just say, for multiple reasons, including social media and now increasingly artificial intelligence, bonds of trust are being eroded. This is a big deal. I'm not going to comment on more, but this is everyone. We need Christians. The Catholic Church needs to come together with the other churches, and Catholics looking within the church, we need to reach out and form bonds of fraternity to resist the erosion of trust. Okay? This is a huge deal. And I'm confident that if Pope Francis were here, he'd be patting me on the head and said, you're a good theologian, Jim. He doesn't always have nice things to say about theologians, by the way. To bind up wounds, everybody, I'm going to say this quickly and I'm going to pass over it, okay? The Diocese of Santa Rosa is bankrupt because of the irresponsible behavior of certain priests. I'm just going to say this. The gospel commands me to forgive, and I haven't forgiven yet. We need to talk about this some more. This is real personal right now, okay? I'm struggling with it. The gospel commands me to forgive. I haven't forgiven yet. Not yet. I'm working on it, okay? And I'm talking about priests that I've known since I was a little kid. To weave new and deeper relationships. Yes, yes, yes. Connect, connect, connect. To learn from one another, to build bridges, to enlighten minds and warm hearts, and this I emphasize, to restore strength to our hands for our common mission. You know, I want Leonardo to go to the University of California, San Diego, and then come back and become a leader in our community. I want him to do wonderful things, and I want him to think of St. Leo's as his home. A place where what he's doing, when he has a good day, we celebrate. When he has a bad day, we commiserate. Got it? And if that goes for Leonardo, that goes for each and every one of us. Okay? I want St. Leo's to be a place where we can celebrate and also commiserate. Okay? And I want people in the wider community to think, yeah, that's what St. Leo's is like. That's what St. Leo's is like. Okay. Last comment. It's not a parliament. Francis says this over and over again. Okay. Look at, I want women to be ordained priests. Okay. And Francis is saying, Francis says to me, I want you to enter into the synod process and learn. Okay? So, I got my pet projects. And Francis says, I want you to change. Not change my opinion. I want you to be formed. It's formation. He's an old Jesuit master of novices. Okay? But everyone, this is hard for Americans to get. This is not a political process. This is a process of spiritual discernment. Okay. Parousia, I mentioned this already. When Paul says, this is back in the first Synod Council of Jerusalem, he said, yeah, I stood up to Peter and I gave him a piece of my mind. I spoke with parousia. And remember, in the last session of the Second Vatican Council, the bishop said, we need to continue this process. So every couple of years, bishops need to get together, a lot of bishops, 200 or so, 250 bishops need to get together in Rome to discuss a particular issue, discern how we need to proceed, and give that as a gift to the Pope in acting collaboratively or collegially with the Pope in the exercise of the Petrine ministry. This is a very fine, sounds beautiful Latin, by the way, okay? And what happened was, these synods that came afterwards, they would start with, the Curia would create a document with the answers, hand it to the bishops of the synod and said, this is what your conclusion is going to be. That's not much of an exaggeration, okay? I have stories to tell, but we got to push on here, okay? When Francis became Pope, the first synod, he said, I want you to speak with parousia. That's the word, it's right there in the Bible. Paul says, I spoke to Peter with parousia. I gave him a piece of, I spoke forthrightly, okay? And the bishops were afraid to do that. This is a learning process. The bishops are coming along, okay? And God knows the conservatives, so-called conservatives, okay? They are saying things about the Pope that I can't, no lefty like me back in the days of John Paul II or Benedict would dream of saying about the Pope, okay? And they're letting it rip, okay? Well, that's another question, okay? So you need to understand, Francis is not Italian. He's not European. He's Argentinian. Okay, so he comes out of Latin America. You guys, we need to do a whole other session on Francis, okay? Francis. There's the Teología de la Liberación, the theology of liberation. At its earliest phase, it was in critical dialogue with Marxism. And I admire this, and it's been influential on me as a theologian. Marx's social critique. Yeah, money really does affect how we look upon the world. It really does. Class structure does. Yeah, that's true. Marx was right. Now, this business about revolution and dictatorship of proletariat, no, okay? But social analysis, social critique, Marx nailed it, okay? And let's put that part of Marxism in dialogue with the gospel, dynamite. That was phase one. As you might expect, a Marxist critique of popular religion, devotion to the Blessed Virgin, saying the Rosary, quinceañeras, all that business, okay? This is part of the way in which the poor have been oppressed, a critique of religion. Phase two starts in Argentina. La religión popular, the religion of the people. It doesn't translate nicely into English. The religion of the people, la religión popular. That, hold it, the Rosary, devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary, quinceañeras, saints, holy water, blessing palms, home altars, all these popular in the sense of the people, religious practices, that's how the poor have survived. The church needs to embrace this. So, starting in 1955, long before the Second Vatican Council, the bishops of Latin America said, we need to get together and discuss how we are going to respond to the needs of the people here in our hemisphere. Starting in 1955, and it's continued ever since. CELAM is the council, the bishops of Latin America and the Caribbean. Okay, so the last meeting they had was 2007. It was in Aparecida in Brazil. Okay, and here's the mass, the closing mass. Okay, so you see this synod involved bishops, but also lay people who were with voting rights, who had prominent role. The process, I met, as a young priest, I did a retreat in San Francisco with Jose Marins. He's a Brazilian. He's the most subversive man on the face of this earth, okay? Process. Jose Marins was not interested in what conclusions we were to come to. He was interested in the process of our personal transformation and welding us into a group, okay? I'll never forget this. He said, I want you to create something that I can bring, because I'm going from here to Costa Rica. I want you to create something that I can bring from you that tells that to them as a gift, that tells these people in Costa Rica what happened to you, what the church is doing here. We put together a banner that had the Golden Gate Bridge on it, okay? We're building bridges, okay? This is back in the late 1970s, okay? Jose Marins. You understand? Process. It's the process in which the people that participate undergo a transformation, okay? A parecida. Who is the bishop that wrote the final document for a parecida? It was the Archbishop of Buenos Aires, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, who is Pope Francis. Okay, so this is the back. So you understand where he's coming from on this. He's not this lonely genius that's made this all up. He is what we're seeing is the fruit of 50 plus years of the drama of the church in Latin America. But also, FABC, the Federation of Asian Bishop Conferences, Ed Chia is an old buddy of mine. We've known each other for about 30 years. He has worked very, very closely with the bishops of Asia, and they have produced very important documents that that left an imprint on the church's pastoral practice in Asia. Asia, I just got back from Japan. Trust me, Asia is a complicated place. Okay. There's the Philippines, and there is mainland China. Oh, do I need to say more? Okay, but it's a complicated place for the church. Okay, here, this is Cardinal Gracias of Mumbai visiting Vietnam. Do you understand how different India is from Vietnam? Yeah. The history of the church in India and the history of the church in Vietnam, the pastoral situation of the church in India. Okay, and here's Cardinal Gracias, who's a really cagey guy. Yeah. Okay, all right, okay. And he look at Americans, we have to say, oh, Asia. Asia. What Asia? Asia is where some Roman centurion stood there at the Dardanelles and looked across the straits and say, oh, that's Asia. Okay, Asia apparently goes from Turkey all the way to Japan. Okay. So enough said. Okay, but everyone, the FABC has been really good in the Synod process, getting people together, articulating vision, problems, what's working, what's not working. Okay. The response to the Synod of the United States of America
was blank.
At best, the Latin Americans and the Asians are way ahead of us. And this is good for Americans to hear. You know what? We're not the leaders. We're lagging far behind. We really are. Okay. Critics of synodality. Beth, this is Cardinal Burke there on the left. Okay, in his wrapped up. Oh my. Okay, and this is Bishop Strickland in Tyler, Texas. They are saying things that are just extraordinary. I can't believe that. Okay, Bishop Strickland has called for someone to tie a millstone around the neck of the Pope and cast him into the sea. Listen, I repeat, I'm an old lefty. I'm a washed-out 60s liberal. Okay, some of you maybe. You are too, Beth, by the way. Okay, listen. For all the problems I had with Pope Benedict, I wouldn't dream of saying that about the Pope. But he's the Pope. Okay, and he's I've been in situations in academic conferences where we're talking about issues in the church and whatnot, and I'm being asked, question and answer. I'm being prompted to say something nasty about Pope Benedict. Okay, and I say, hold it. Let's get this straight. Pope Benedict is my boss, and it would be very unbecoming of me to say something. Okay, he and I have theological differences, and as a result of those differences, we have different pastoral priorities. Okay, let's get those differences out on the table, and let's work at this together. Okay, that's not what I'm getting from either the Cardinal or His Excellency, the Bishop of Tyler, Texas. Okay, look at this, Cardinal Burke. I'm really beating up on Cardinal Burke here, but he deserves it. Our Lord Jesus Christ, who is our only Savior, is not at the root and center of synodality. This is why it overlooks and truthfully forgets the divine nature of the church. Well, someone needs to tell the cardinal about the Holy Spirit. Okay, is everybody here baptized?
Yes.
Well, I believe that the Holy Spirit was poured out onto you in your baptism. So now, stand up and prophesy. Stand up and tell the truth. We'll listen. Okay? And believe me, Christ will be there. And this is, if you want to call it that, the divine nature of the church. Here in the United States, though, everybody, don't lose track. We have a tradition, the Encuentros Nacionales, that the Spanish-speaking part of our community, Catholic community, here in the United States, gets together every several years. I don't know. They have COVID messed things up on the schedule, okay? But they get together for a synod. And here, this legacy of Salem in Central America, in Latin America, you can see what they did. Spanish-speaking folks here in the United States said, let's have our own encuentro, okay? So that's momentum, and there's a lot of experience there, and good for us. So I'm trying to say, the United States of America, we're not brain dead completely. Issue number 3, the synod process. You guys, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. It's complicated, and you don't need to get bogged down in details, but let's talk it up. So the synod office in Rome said to all the bishops, here's what we want you to do, and here's some possible questions for you, but you guys take this, we're just priming the pump. You take it from there. So listening and dialogue at every level. And this is supposed to go on in parishes, it's supposed to go on in the ladies' guild, the men's club, the bocce ball people need to be doing this. This needs to go here in St. Louis. This needs to go on in Spanish. It needs to go on in English. Listening and dialogue at every. Okay, and then there's this process of the restitutio. You create a document and you send it up. Okay, and then all these documents that get sent up kind of get amalgamated. Okay, these seem to be the issues. You send it back down. These seem to be the issues. And so here at St. Leo's, there's a parish named after St. Leo the Great in Zaire. What are they talking about? We need to be thinking about what they're talking about, just as they need to be thinking about what we're talking about, okay? Restitutio. After it goes up, it goes back down. Restitutio, okay? Complicated process, okay? And so I'm going to spare you the details, but that you got the dynamic is what goes up must come back down. And remember, this is not a parliament, this is about transformation, okay? Eventually, Rome produced the Instrumentum Laboris, the working document, okay? And it reflects, I'm going to talk about it in some detail, but just say the working document isn't this final statement that needs to be rubber stamped by the Synod. It's the questions. It's all about questions. So the first session, what's going on right now is not the whole Synod. It's not the whole Synod because the Synod started in 2021. It's been going on since, okay? This is the first session. And they're going to produce, it goes from the 4th to the 29th of this month, they're going to produce a preliminary report. I don't know what they're going to call it, but I'm calling it a preliminary report. Normally, this goes to the final document. It's supposed to go to the Pope. The Pope reads it, reflects on it, prays on it, and then produces a statement, okay? And there have been really important statements in this regard. This is not going to go to the Pope. Of course, obviously, he's going to read it, okay? It's a preliminary report. It's going to go restitutio. It's going to come back down to us. So once again, let me just say, I hope let's do this again. And we're going to say, what is this document? We'll pull it apart and say, what do we have to add to this preliminary report? That's the restitutio to the local churches, okay? And then there's going to be a second session. That's what they call them, sessions. That the participants in this synod meeting, session, are going to return a year from now and say, all right, this is how our people responded to the preliminary report. Let's punch this up, okay? And then we'll give a final report to Pope Francis. I expect Pope Francis to respond in detail to this final report. He's going to write a big document, I predict, okay? And then, if you will, the last phase of Francis's synodal process is he's going to retire. Don't know that. Stay tuned. But you remember where you heard it first. Okay. Okay. Also, my buddy Randy Calvo says normally the Pope comes up with an exhortation. It's a pastoral, it's an exhortation. Here's what we have discerned. This is what I think we should be doing. Go out there and go for it. And he's exhorting us, okay? It could be an encyclical, which is to say, an encyclical is more about official teaching. So he might want to change the teaching, okay? This could be regarding ordaining women to holy orders, for example, okay? Or blessing same-sex unions. That just became an issue, okay? It could be, Randy says it could be a constitution which has more to do with fundamental working structure of the church. Could be, okay? Randy says, is it going to be a exhortation? Probably, but it could be an encyclical, could be a constitution. Stay tuned, okay? All right, everybody, this is the synod in Nigeria. Okay, look at that. Nigeria, what a cool place, Beth. Chuck, okay, Beth and Chuck have Nigerian family, okay? Okay, yeah, okay, and we should take a picture of ourselves and send it to these people in Nigeria. This is, I just got back from Japan, this is the opening paragraphs of the statement that the church in Japan came up with, okay? And look at it, you can see it's quite interesting. Okay? I'm showing it to you. Look at the top there, okay? It says, at the very top it says, Nihon no Kyokai no Minasama e, which is written in elegant and polite Japanese. This document is addressed. This is the document that they sent to Rome, okay? But they don't say that at the top. The top says, for everyone in the Church of Japan. Nice. Nihon no Kyokai no minasama e. Not minasan, minasama. Milords. Okay, it's formal language. Okay, it's very. This document is really for everybody in the church in Japan. Lovely, lovely. Everyone, process, not outcome. The real goal is the transformation. Does that make sense? And the Japanese bishops get it. Okay? So it started with this ecumenical prayer service on the 30th, okay? Look at that, okay? And, if you turn the camera around and you look back to the rest of the Piazza San Pietro, it spills out all the way down into the Via della Conciliazione, okay? Okay? Yeah, everybody, look at that. That's the church, okay? And I say that because, everyone, there's the Archbishop of Canterbury, and there is she's the head of the Lutheran
World Federation.
Lutheran World Federation.
What's her name? Martin Luther. Mrs. Martin Luther. So it's on the tip of your tongue.
Right.
Okay. And
Just the presiding bishop of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America is a woman, and the head of the Evangelical Lutheran Church World Federation is a woman.
Because sometimes the best man for the job is a woman. Okay. And then there's some. know, the guy next to her is some Orthodox guy. I don't know, whatever. So, it's not the Patriarch of Constantinople, okay? Though he was there as well. Everyone, you understand how close the Patriarch of Constantinople is with Pope Francis? They are buddies. Okay. Okay. Listen, I said the church. You remember that, everybody? That's the church. And it's the church because that's the church, and that's the church. Are you with me on this? Okay? Yeah. Okay. And here's some, on the far right, there's some evangelical guy, praying in tongues, okay? Some Pentecostal. Great. Great. Okay. Okay. And there it is, everybody. Look at that. Nice. There are like, the numbers keep changing, but there are 400 people or whatever at the Synod, okay? Except everybody, look at all those people there. That's the Synod. And I'm looking out at all of you. You're the Synod. Yes. Okay. Also, St. Leo's, typically, we have our local correspondent, okay? Noelani's there, okay? And she's sending me emails. Noelani, we have this whole theological discussion going on right now, okay? She sends every morning. I wake up and there's an email from Noelani, okay? So stay tuned. So listen, when we get back together in November, we'll get Noelani up here because she's there and Noelani's got an opinion too, by the way. Okay, so this is the Synod Hall. Excuse me, this is not the Synod Hall. This is the audience hall. It's a beautiful piece of architecture. After the council, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, regularly, masses at St. Peter's are held outside because there's just not enough room. How many people have been in St. Peter's Basilica? It's cavernous, right? I mean, it's like a blimp hangar, okay? It's bigger, okay? And that's not big enough. So they have these masses outside. And during the winter, the Wednesday audiences, it might rain, it's cold, etc. So they built this cavernous audience hall. And by the way, there on the right, there is this fabulous bas-relief sculpture of the resurrection. It's really cool, okay? So the deal was this, everybody. This is the Synod Hall. This is where the bishops normally meet for a synod. And look at how the architecture tells out what synods are supposed to be. Sit there, shut up, and listen, okay? And bishops were given 8 minutes of fame. The bishop could get up and talk about anything he wanted about for 8 minutes, okay? So one bishop is talking about one thing, and then for the next 8 minutes, the bishop talking about something completely different, and the bishop was talking about something. It was designed to be useless. Okay? Designed to be useless. Okay? All right. Okay? And listen, I'm not against this. Okay? For an academic meeting, fine. Okay? But synods are not academic meetings. Neither are they political processes. They are places of encuentro and fraternidad. I'm speaking Spanish now. Okay? Good. Learn Spanish. You're right. So everybody. So this was not where you can't have the synod. This synod can't have synods now any longer in the synod hall. Okay, there's another reason that they couldn't have this synod in the synod hall because there are like 55 women at the synod. Okay, and there's not enough women's bathrooms here. That's hilarious, isn't it? Yeah, figure it out, boys. Okay, there's not enough women's bathrooms. Okay, so anyway, so just let me say, they're taking out all the seats and putting in tables, round tables. Okay, and this is really different. Okay, got it? Really, really different. Okay. The instrumentum laboris. Okay, I'm gonna go quickly here, everybody. This is questions, not answers. I've said this. You got the idea, right? Okay. I'm giving you sample questions. Okay. What are the concrete, and we're going to go quickly over this, okay? And just know that these issues, when you and I come back in November, we're going to look at this in much more detail. But I just wanted to give you a sample. Remember, in the old days, the curia would work out, here in effect is the final document, and give it to the bishops. And they would spend a month putting their rubber stamp on it. Bergoglio in Argentina, Pope Francis, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, said, I don't want to go to any more synods, they're a waste of time. From a Latin American perspective, yeah, they're a waste of time. Okay? So now this Instrumentum Laboris is about questions. So on inclusion, what concrete steps are needed to welcome those who feel excluded from the church because of their status or sexuality? For example, remarried divorcees, women, look at this, women in polygamous marriages. This has not come up in discussions here in the Diocese of Santa Rosa, okay? How are we going to show compassion, respect, and how are we to give justice to women in polygamous marriages? How are we going to honor, how are we going to be a church and operate as a church in a way that honors the dignity of a woman in a polygamous marriage? That's going to need some fixing in canon law. Okay? It's also going to require some theological ingenuity and some spiritual discernment. It means we're going to have to change. Everybody, I want us to be in solidarity with the churches of Africa where this is a real pastoral problem. Because it's not our pastoral problem, it's their pastoral problem. But if we make their problem our problem, I think maybe we'll look on women differently. See what I'm saying there? Okay? How cool it is that here at St. Leo's, we're thinking about what troubles the people of different parts, in local churches in different parts of Africa. How cool is that? Okay? Polygamous marriages. More closer to home, LGBTQ plus people. We'll say more about this, okay? On service, how can we discern the baptismal ministries necessary for the mission in the local church, whether instituted or not? Everybody. There was a time when our mentality was, I'm ordained, so I have a ministry, and you are the objects of my ministry. And now we need that the subject of all ministry is the baptized person. You understand how I'm saying this, okay? That is to say, you have a vocation, a ministry, you have a responsibility for service because of your baptism. Okay? And this gets complicated. This morning with Noelani, our correspondent in Rome, we're thinking, should we be ordaining women priests or deacons? Will this lead to the clericalization of women? If so, it's a complicated question. By the way, I do support the ordination of women, but I do that with eyes wide open. Women can be clerics just as obnoxiously as men can. Also this, we need to learn from our Protestant brothers and sisters who have been down this road already. Ain't that right, Phyllis?
Been there.
Okay. I'm gonna look. You guys, these are huge issues. I'm giving you a taste. What concrete steps can the church take to renew and reform its procedures, its institutional arrangements, and structures to enable greater recognition and participation of women, including in governance? Governance. I'm thinking of leadership at the diocesan level, decision-making processes, and in the taking of decisions in a spirit of communion and with a view to mission. That's on the agenda, everybody, right now. Once again, on service. There are many, in this document, there are multiple questions that directly speak to the contribution of women. What concrete steps can take, excuse me, I'm repeating myself here. Question 5, also on service. What new ministries could be created to provide the means and opportunities for women's effective participation in discernment and decision-making bodies? Okay, hang on just a second. Most of the continental assemblies and the syntheses of several Episcopal conferences call for the question of women's inclusion in the diaconate to be considered. Everyone, right now, ordaining women to be priests is not on the agenda. It's certainly on my agenda, okay? The step is, should we be ordaining women to be deacons? Okay? Where are you going?
I got a Zoom call at 12 o'clock with a young couple.
God be with you.
Good luck to them.
Let's hear it for the Lutherans. See you tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so everyone, here, let's take this back, this one, okay? New ministries. So Wednesday, I said Mass for Phyllis, for Marion. Is Marion here?
No, she couldn't
She
make it.
couldn't come.
Couldn't come. And Marion Williams, who worked with me, she was my boss in adult ed. She's great, okay? Marion's has a friend who told her that there's this kid in Sonoma Hospital right now. He fell off the wall coming up from Mexico. He fell off the wall, okay? This is not the first time. I know a bunch of kids. Kids with broken legs, I know. Here in St. Louis, okay? And so he doesn't know anybody. I don't know if he's got any family. He's not connected with us. So my first thought was, I need to go visit him. Okay, I'm old, and I'm lame. And, hold it. Somebody that's a native speaker of Spanish should be going and reaching out to this kid. Why not a woman? And should this woman be ordained deacon? Well, certainly the woman doesn't have to be ordained a deacon, but I want our Spanish-speaking families, that part of our community, I want them to think, yeah, we have people, men and women, who are, if you will, designated hitters. That people, they have been formed, they've worked with the priest in this case, they've got a vision, they've got a deep spirituality, they have spiritual practice, and here I've just heard about this kid in the hospital, reach out. And this woman or man has the pastoral competence to know how to do this, okay? And the question for us at the Synod is, should this woman who does this, who's trained, who's skillful, who's accomplished, who has got spiritual depth, who can do the job, should we not recognize her baptismal ministry by ordaining her? Okay? Yeah, I think so, but it's not a slam dunk. And I repeat, does she need to be ordained? No. She's baptized. She's already ordained. She's baptized, okay? But do we want to make her work official, if you understand how I'm using that word? That's a question that I think we need to be asking, okay? And I'm giving, this happened Wednesday. Marion told me this, okay? I haven't gone down to the hospital yet, okay? But I'll go down there, who knows, does the kid want to talk to me? I don't know. But I know kids here with no family. How many times, you guys, on Tuesday mornings when we distribute food, some kid comes walking up and I said, how old are you? ¿Cuántos años tiene usted? Tengo 15 años. 15. Do you have family here? Oh no, they're all back in Mexico. How long have you been here? 2 weeks. Hovind, you need to be in school. Hovind, young man, Hovind, you need to be in school. Oh, Padre, I have to work. That's us, everybody. That's us. And the tragedy of it, we need to look beyond the tragedy of it and say, roll up your sleeves and get to work. We're baptized. This is our ministry. What a golden opportunity for us to make the church tangible. Do you see what I just said? What a golden opportunity for us to make the church tangible. Okay. Married men, you guys, should married men be ordained? Okay. All right. Service of bishops. Okay. How do we hold, I can say, how do we hold the bishops accountable? Some bishops need to be held accountable, it's true, okay? But I know a lot of bishops who are saying, I'm overwhelmed. Listen, I have a classmate who I love dearly. We have been best friends since we were 18 years old, okay? And he was a good bishop. I mean, if there's ever anyone I've known that should have been a bishop, it was Randy. And I wouldn't wish that. When he was named a bishop, I said, Randy, I will stick with you through it all, and it's going to be hell. And it was. Okay. Just, how can we be of service to our bishops? And in some cases, I admit, some bishops need to wake up, pal. You need service. Okay? And the service, same goes for the Bishop of Rome. All right? So everyone, each one of these we could spend a whole day on. I'm going to finish this up here. People. There's Natalie. She's a firecracker. She's very French. Okay? Natalie Becca. She's a nun. I can't remember what her community is. Okay? She is very articulate. She speaks good English, okay, but she speaks French, and God only knows how many other languages. She must speak Italian, certainly, okay. And she is number 2 within the office of synods. You guys, are you interested in technicalities? The office of the Synod of Bishops technically is not part of the Curia. The Curia is a bureaucracy in service of the Pope. The Synod is the communion of bishops that work collegially with the Pope. She's number 2, okay? And she's got a lot on the ball, Natalie, okay? This is number 1, Mario, okay? Mario Greach. He's a cardinal now, okay? He's from Malta. Can I tell you something about him? Look at everybody. In my life, I have made some really big mistakes. And I think I'm a better priest because of it. And I'll take it a step further. I'm better at being baptized as a result of it, okay? I'll just bet you have your own stories to tell, okay? And I hope you can tell that story in a way and say, yeah, that was my mistake, and this is how I'm better at my Christian practice, my practice of the gospel for being better, okay? So, Pope Benedict said something awful about LGBTQ people, objectively disordered, or they effectively have excommunicated themselves. And he repeated what the Pope said, okay? And some young man in Malta said, okay, I guess I'm excommunicated. Gay guy, I'm excommunicated, and left the church. Years later, Mario, the bishop, went to a meeting for LGBTQ parents. And at the meeting, the mother of this kid, turned to him and said, Your Excellency, you're the reason my son left the church. This is the family. That's the mother. And one of those kids one of the two boys, is gay and left the church as a result of what Bishop Mario said, okay? And Bishop Mario was repentant. He asked her forgiveness. And he probably reached out to the son who's gay, okay? I don't know all the details. Everybody, what I've just told you, this recommends Cardinal Mario Breach for service as the head of the office of the Synod of Bishops. Pope Francis, in his first interview, famously said, the interviewer said, "Who are you?" He said, "I'm a sinner." And he says, I'm not wearing my humility on my sleeve. No. Take it literally. I'm a sinner. Yeah, good. Me too. Okay. So that's Mario. Mario's good. Look, everyone. He's fallen down and the Spirit has lifted him back up. Yes, that's what we need. Okay? This is Jean-Claude. He's also a cardinal. He's the Archbishop of Luxembourg. And he's the one that's going to write the final document, which is not the final document. In other words, he's the one, he's the one, there's going to be a bunch of people working with him. How are we going to pull this all together into a statement that we can send to St. Leo's? That's Jean-Claude, okay? And I never met the man, but I've read him and whatnot. Do you see the kindness in this man's face?
Yes.
Yeah, that comes out in what he says, okay? Good for us, okay? This is Bob McElroy. Bob McElroy has been calling for radical inclusion, okay? And he's been raising hackles because radical inclusion for Bob means reaching out to the LGBTQ people in our church who we have excluded. It means other people, women, okay? Those who are divorced and remarried, yes, okay? Bob's really good. I've known Bob for many, many years. I can't say we're close friends just because I've been, our work has taken us far apart from one another, okay? But I see him every once in a while. Anyway, Bob became a priest of the Archdiocese of San Francisco. He's really smart. He went to Harvard as an undergraduate. He's a really smart guy. And the Archbishop of San Francisco, not the current Archbishop of San Francisco, Archbishop Quinn said, "Listen, I need some really smart people to advise me. I'm sending you to Rome. I want you to get a doctoral degree in theology. And then after you come back, I'm sending you to Stanford to get a doctoral degree in political science." So he's got a double doctorate, okay? So eventually he became a bishop and then sent to San Diego. And then didn't the Pope make him a cardinal? So Bob is Robert Cardinal McElroy, okay? I can't believe I have a buddy that's a cardinal, okay? And Bob's good as gold. Look he's made some mistakes too. He's a bishop. It's amazing what you can't do once you become a bishop, okay? I'm a theologian. I get to sit in the sidelines and snipe, okay? Okay. This is James Martin. Some of you have read James Martin's book. Okay, he's with Carrie Robinson. She is the grand poobah of the U.S. Conference for Church Leaders, or something like that, okay? So she's got a lot on the ball, too. She's not going to the Synod, but James Martin's going to the Synod. And the reason James Martin's going to the Synod is that he has done he is one of the editors at America magazine. I thoroughly recommend America magazine. Get it online. Cool, okay. James Martin has done extraordinary work in terms of building bridges of healing to the LGBT community. And man, the blowback that Jim Martin's getting is scary, okay? So the Pope named about 50 people. These are, if you will, they're not his personal delegates, they're the delegates that he has named personally, okay? And James Martin is one of them, okay? Good, and there's a statement, okay, everybody, that's a statement about what the priorities are here, okay? This is Cynthia Bailey Manns. She is also top-notch. So she is in a African-American parish in, I can't remember where it is right now. I don't think it's in Alabama. It's in the South, Georgia, I think, okay? And she's in charge of Dennis, she's got your job, okay? She does adult ed, okay? And we should bring her out here and have her tell stories about what happened to the Synod, okay? She's part of this, she's a delegate. And by the way, a voting delegate at the Synod, okay? And all this is unprecedented. It's, strictly speaking, it's called the Synod of Bishops. And Francis said, yeah, Synod of Bishops plus Cynthia, okay? Okay. These also are American delegates, okay? Leticia they're all three people are born in Latin America, mostly in Mexico here, okay? And they came here as kids, and now they're giving us leadership, okay? Leticia, Ivan, and Wyatt, okay? Ivan is a priest of the Diocese of El Paso, and the Bishop of El Paso, whose name escapes me right now, is top-notch. Do you remember his name? Sykes. Sykes, okay, yeah. The leadership he's giving on immigration, he's just top-notch. Listen, there are some really... The bishops in the United States of America are not quite hopeless. Bob McElroy, the Bishop in El Paso, there are some outstanding people, okay? And don't lose track of that, okay? I'll leave, don't worry, I'm not gonna talk about her, okay? Not yet, okay? Everybody, I'm gonna stop, okay? Everybody, how cool is this, okay? You guys, do you need to stand up and stretch? Why don't you do that? We can do Q&A. There's tea and crumpets. Spider fly. Okay, everybody, do you want to spend a few minutes in Q&A? Mostly Q, though, right? That's what it says. No checking. So, everybody, does anyone want to make a comment?
Quick comment, Jim. I'm wondering the second Pope Francis' definition of the whole Senate, that beautiful statement.
Yeah.
Come get it, the brothers and some folks can read it and see it.
You know, I'm preaching on it this weekend, okay?
Okay.
And what I'll tell you what I'll do is I will put the statement at the bottom of the homily. Do you get my homilies? It'll be right there.
For everybody to see it. It's the basic statement.
It's good.
Everybody can see it.
Yeah, that's what.
He doesn't even know what's happening.
Yeah. Okay. Like I said, I'm going to preach on it this weekend. Other statements or questions or comments? Yes.
In the article that Vic sent out, it mentioned October 4th as being the start the feast day of St. Francis.
Yeah.
But also the end of the season of creation.
So the Pope is good friends with the Patriarch of Constantinople. The Patriarch of Constantinople, and you understand, after 1,000 years of enmity between Rome and Constantinople, the Pope and the Patriarch are good buddies. So the patriarch has given a lot of leadership on the issue of climate change. And now, the patriarch talks to the Pope and says, you got to do something about climate change. So the Pope writes an encyclical, Laudato Si, which is extraordinary. These are great documents. They're too long, but they're great. And he promulgates that on October the 4th, which is the feast of St. Francis. So also, that was in 2015. I was in Rome when that happened. Also, in this last week, October the 4th, the Pope promulgated an exhortation where basically he takes the United States of America, gives us a spanking, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, right? That we're falling down on the job, not just the United States. We're not doing what we need to do. This is, in a sense, an addendum to Laudato Si is an encyclical, it's teaching. This is an exhortation based on that teaching, all right? So, October the 4th has become the World Day of Creation. Is that the phrase they use? There's so much going on that's cool in Rome right now, okay? Feast of St. Francis, the promulgation of this exhortation based on the encyclical on the environment, and the Synod. There's so much going on. We're tripping over ourselves, okay? Other questions? Or yes? Tell me your name again. I can't
I'm
think.
Patricia.
Patricia.
Hi, good to see you. Anyway, I was thinking as you were talking earlier about the Latin American Church,
Yeah.
one of the interests that I find now I have and have had is the theology of Latin America. Back to Gutierrez, Segundo, Eduardo Bach.
Yeah.
These are kind of the basics I think that you may have been touching on when you talked about how Marxism, some of the sort of tenets of Marxism match up with what I think of as liberation theology.
Yes.
And to read those people is very powerful, inspiring, and it is about the religion of the people. But we have seen in this country, as I've grown up watching, comments made in that nature are considered, communist, anti-capitalist, so it becomes highly, I mean, it's a silencing as far as I'm concerned, because they're beautiful writers and very hopeful theologians.
Yeah.
That's all.
Patricia, thank you very much. That's a statement that we need to reflect on. Just let me say, the history of the Catholic Church in the United States of America, generation after generation after generation, we set out to prove that it's possible to be a good American, a loyal American, and a good Catholic at the same time. Okay, and so being anti-communist was part of establishing our credentials. Okay, this is a response to palpable and significant anti-Catholicism in the United States of America. Okay, at the same time, the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ is quite subversive. There's a parable of the grape harvest is going on right now, okay? So there's a parable Jesus tells. Some vineyard owner hires workers at dawn, and then later in the day and pays them all the same, okay? I read that a year or two ago. I read it as the gospel, okay? And someone said, "What the hell is going on?" To which I had to say,
A great
Jesus doesn't affirm your business practices. And what are we going to do about that? I'm not saying Jesus was a commie.
Well, you might have had some social, moral.
Patricia, I'm saying the commies, whether they know it or not, have something in common with Jesus. Yeah.
Well, that was one of the most surprising thing I heard was that there was a willingness to engage the dialectical, Marxist dialectical analysis with in terms of a theological concept, because that's sort of been my project for years, that Marxism is not the same as, it's a method, the same way it's a method of inquiry based on an understanding of the world, which, happens to come through the lineage of Marx. But it's independent of any theology. You could be a Marxist Catholic, for sure. And the fact that dialogue has been excluded, I think it's a big problem with the American church, because it seems to want to become part of the general evangelical moral majority at the level of the bishops. It's depressing to me. And this encounter with some of the basic principles of Marxism would be a tonic for the American bishops and the church.
Can I just say this? This is bringing us to really big ideas that are cool to think about theologically. And I've been doing this for the last several years in discussions with fellow theologians and other friends here in Sonoma, as a matter of fact. I'll just be real quick here. You're absolutely on the right track. I think capitalism is moving into a new phase. We're used to talking about, we have capitalism was first mercantilism, and then a slave and a colonial-based corporate system, and then industrialization, and now digitalization. We see that multinational corporations, increasingly, some are becoming what I call meta-national, which is to say they are above the system of restraints established by the nation-state system. This is a really big issue, okay, and it has to do with modernity and post-modernity and that sort of stuff, okay? Also, there's a German concept, Habermas talks about Spätkapitalismus in German, late capitalism.
There's a word that's being referred to as techno-feudalism.
Oh, God.
We got to talk about this. I'm thinking, are we headed to a new kind of feudalism? Yeah. Okay. This is huge, big idea. Let's talk about it afterwards. Okay. Just let me say, the Catholic Church is a global community. We need to know. We got to find St. Leo's Parish in Nigeria and reach out and connect with those people. I suspect that the Catholic Church is going to become kind of an underground community, working at a grassroots level, way beneath this new conglomeration of power at the meta-national level. This is abstract and we got to talk more about this, okay? So, yes, and everybody, you mentioned Leonardo Boff and Segundo and Gutierrez. Okay. Let me just say, also, there are theologians like Segundo Galilea in Argentina, who took that first generation that you mentioned, that's the first generation, and said, hold it. Their critique of popular religion, which in keeping with the Marxist critique, remember, religion is the opiate of the people, okay? That ain't going to work. The people love their devotions. And, God knows, Mexicanos born in Mexico have come here to St. Leo's and brought their devotions with them. And we have to support that. And I do this, every time I say Mass in Spanish, how am I going to get this beloved Catholic faith that these people have brought with them to us from Mexico? How am I going to find the gospel hidden within it? That's always the case. How do we find the gospel hidden within the culture of the people? That goes as much for English-speaking people as it goes for Spanish-speaking people. I'm so glad you brought this up. This is a cool issue for us. Remember, the gospel is an alternative to modernity. Yeah, that's a big issue right there. Other questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering what you feel like we, as the Diocese of Santa Rosa, can, what our voice can be, given where we are and our structure.
Well, Monsignor Jack O'Hare always was fond of saying that St. Leo's is the only parish in the diocese with its own foreign policy. And look, I hope that the diocese takes what happens in Rome right now seriously
We're just getting wound up.
and
Life is just.
runs with it, okay? But, Beth, even if that doesn't happen, let's you and I run with it.
Right, right, no, I'll put on my shoes.
Okay, good, okay. Everybody, so November, we'll meet in November, okay? And let's punch it up and comments, and I will make sure that those comments get to Rome. Yeah, yes.
Just quick, I participated in I'm trying to figure out how to put this as a question.
Just making a
I
statement.
participated at many of these reviews or questions on documents that went to Rome. I hope that there are people here who have participated. I know that our diocese, it didn't come from our bishop, the bishop, excuse me. So I would like for people to feel that the questions or the things that are being dealt with are ours. They're all ours.
How did you,
Very
listen,
much so.
I've contributed as well.
Yeah.
Let me say quickly, the bishops in the United States of America there's a they've got their own program, okay? They asked 60 theologians to come together for a Zoom meeting. It went on for about 2 hours or so, okay? And it was a process. We broke into groups and discussed, and then came back, etc. Okay, it was a good process, and a lot of good things were said. Okay, and the bishop representing the bishops of the United States took a lot of notes. Okay, and it got incorporated into a final document. How did you make your contribution?
I did it through Future Church
Yeah.
organization. I answered questions with the Carmelite sisters in Baltimore. I answered anybody that sent me a document and questions, and I thought that everybody was doing that. I mean, maybe some people don't have those sources, but like call to action. I answered questions from their group, and there were very good questions. There were things that I'm really interested in, and it was formulated well. And they asked you to formulate your answer to so some of the very real concerns that I have as an individual, and my friends and the people that I worship with have. And I feel that from what I've heard, that that they have it right, and these are the things that we should be talking about and sharing.
I have to say that the document that the U.S. bishops produced, sent to Rome, was good. I was surprised at how good it was. Okay?
I wasn't part of that.
Well, actually, I think you were. What you said, well, maybe not. I'm not quite sure. What I said with those 60 theologians, that went to the bishops of the U.S. bishops, and that was incorporated somehow, okay, in this final document. It was reflected in this final document, and I'll bet that what you said, it got reflected someplace.
Well, two things. One is repeatedly they said you could write to the Pope, and there was an address. So that was one thing. And then the other thing was there were, I think it was Future Church, I'm not positive of that, but they said their report was being sent directly.
Good.
So now, I don't know whether that, you know, I mean, we all can take it and say.
I'm going to say this again, I've said it again and again and again. The real value is that you and I are talking about this right now. How cool is that? Okay, listen, I am committed to you. Good.
I'm committed to you too, and I must say that I'm so thrilled. I didn't know Nolani was there. I really feel like we have representation.
Listen, it's where the, as Jack O'Hara, we're the only parish with its own foreign policy. We've got our own representative in Rome.
Should we take one more question?
Yeah.
Jim, I just wanted to ask if maybe next time you do this, we could discuss some of the questions that have come up. I would love to do that, to feel like I'm participating a little bit more in the process rather than.
Okay, so what I propose to do in November, they're meeting now, they're going to meet to the 28th or 29th, okay? And they'll produce a document. And remember, the purpose of this is not to produce documents, but boy, we are producing documents, okay? All right? And let's study, Dennis will send you a link to the final document. Read it, study it, think on it, and come with questions or statements. Everybody, what's your favorite passage? Do that, okay? And then when we meet in November, I'll have like a preliminary presentation, but the bulk of the discussion will be from you. Okay?
And before everybody gets a chance to walk out, I'd just like to thank Brother Jim. I think this was great. Really, thank you.
I think so. Okay, what do you do?
Yes, please.
I will,
Oh, okay. Here you go.
let me talk to Mary.
I'll add you to.
Then let's, you and I talk.
I won't, but someone will.